Welcome back to Giants Latest. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are less than a week away from the draft and we have a lot to discuss. So, in the upcoming episodes from now up until draft day, what we're going to do is focus on some player profiles and we're going to go through different rounds because obviously the Giants have a lot of draft picks this year and the draft does not end after round one. So, this team is going to have the opportunity to really bring in some good players that could make an impact from week one. So, there are some names that you need to know. So, let's go ahead and get right into it. I want to start with offensive lineman Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. So he actually was a guard, but last year, Joshua Simmons, who was the left tackle for Ohio State and who actually is also coming out in this draft and projected to be a great player in the NFL. We could talk about him another day. He was playing left tackle, he got injured, and Donovan Jackson, who was playing guard during the season, slipped right over to left tackle and stepped in, didn't miss a beat, and was able to play right away and did a really nice job for Ohio State stepping in at tackle. So I know we've talked a lot about how the Giants brought in some free agent tackles who could potentially be a backup if, God forbid, Andrew Thomas goes down, but they can't afford to always be bringing in swing tackles in free agency. They need to be able to nail it in the draft, and we talk a lot about versatility, especially with the offensive line, that Carmen Brasillo is a big fan of that, and I think to bring in someone like Jackson, who maybe you could start at left guard or right guard, who can be in the rotation with Greg Van Roten, or maybe try and beat out GVR for the starting role. If Andrew Thomas, God forbid, goes down, you know this guy can slide over to left tackle and be sufficient. And that's really important for this Giants team. They cannot afford to lose Andrew Thomas and then say goodbye to the rest of the season for what, the third year in the row, the fourth year in a row? It's unacceptable behavior. They need to be prepared. So Donovan Jackson is the guy that is projected to go anywhere from rounds 2 to 3. So I think pick 34 might be a little high for him, but he could be a guy that goes into one of their round 3 picks because they have so many. So a couple other things that you need to know about him. He's 6'3" and a half. He is 315 pounds. He is a solid second day pick. So again, could be a good option for the Giants. He does have a limited range as a tackle, but he is mostly known as a guard. So I think the fact that he's probably mostly going to start with guard and then could move over to tackle, something that I think Carmen Brasillo would be able to help him improve upon. He was also a two-time academic All Big Ten. This is something that we talked about with Jalen Milroe and something that Joe Shane talked about when they're scouting these players is, are they smart enough to learn these new systems? Are they smart enough to be able to adjust on the fly? Being intelligent is something that's really important and something that this Giants team is focused on. What's their slogan? Smart, tough, dependable. So it's a must for players like this. And when they have those type of accolades that he was the all Big Ten two-time academic, so important. So something to keep an eye on when it comes to these players. He is good strength at the point of attack, good at pass protection, long arms, and a solid base also helps him in pass protection. So something that's been lacking over the last couple of years, if we all know if we've watched Giants football, is the pass protection has been more of an issue than the run blocking. So something that maybe, Donovan Jackson, if drafted to the Giants, he could help. But we don't have all day to talk about Donovan Jackson, so we're going to move along here and talk about Josiah Stewart. Now, I am a certified Michigan hater, okay? I'm just going to be honest about that. And it's not because it's partially because they're cheaters. My sister-in-law went to Ohio State, so I'm more of an Ohio State gal because of that. But I just don't like Michigan. I just think there's not a lot to like about them. But what I will say is they have bred some good football players. So, as much as I hate them and I hate UGA and I hate Clemson because I'm a South Carolina girl, I have to be honest. They allow for some good football players. So I'm not going to hold the fact that Edge Josiah Stewart went to Michigan because he was a pretty good football player for them. And I actually was lucky enough. I got to talk to him one-on-one at the Senior Bowl. He's very personable, smart, great football player, great conversationalist. I liked the talk that I that I had with him and a couple things that I learned about him. He is from the Bronx. He has a New York tattoo on his neck. So, of course, I had to ask about that. And he said he grew up in the Bronx. His dad's a Yankees fan. He's a Yankees fan. And to be able to play in New York would be a dream come true for him. So, for everyone who's hating on Abdul Carter, listen, if they don't get Abdul Carter, you could have a homegrown boy right here in Josiah Stewart. Now, the other reason why I want to talk about him is because he played in Wink's system last year. Now, Wink's defense last year was obviously very different and not as good as it was with the Giants, but one thing about Stewart that I also learned when I talked to him is during his years in college, he learned multiple different schemes. So again, we go back to that smart part, right? Is to be able to adjust and learn to all these different schemes. From what we heard from Xavier McKinney and some of the other players who had to learn Wing's scheme, it is not simple. So again, Josiah Stewart is a name to watch. He is projected to go anywhere in rounds 2 to 3. He's 6'1", 249 pounds. Some of his stats from last year, he had 33 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, and 2 forced fumbles. He is projected to be best as a 3 to 4 outside backer or a rotational edge rusher. So, 2 things. He's going to fit right into this scheme with Shane Bowen. I think that he's a really great option for the Giants if Abdul Carter is not there at 3. This is a deep edge draft, and it's a position that they need some help with, especially after letting Azeez Ojulari go. And some of the things that I have seen from Josiah Stewart, I like. One thing I'm a little concerned about, but I do think it could be improved upon, is he sometimes has a little bit of an issue with tackling. And I'm having a little bit of flashbacks to Kayvon. It's not an effort thing, okay? Let's get that straight. It's not effort. It's just he's lacking the size a little bit in an edge rusher, so that's a bit of part of the problem. And, he just doesn't have the range and power that some of these other edge rushers have, which is why he's projected to go more in rounds 2 to 3 as opposed to earlier in the draft. He makes a lot of plays when he's out in space. He generally tackles well for the most part, but obviously has some issues when he's on the move making tackles. Good pass rusher, can get tackles off balance. He's quick, has a quick and aggressive get off from the get-go, which we love to see. Compact frame with plus strength for his size, high motor, and has a no-quit attitude. What else do I have to say? Big fan of this guy. Like I said, I will not hold it against him that he went to Michigan. He actually went to Coastal Carolina first, where he was a 3-year starter, and then he ended up transferring over to Michigan. And because of that, that's part of the reason why he had to learn a bunch of different defensive schemes. But I would bet that Wink Martindale would speak highly of him. And, regardless of what happened with the Giants and Wink and Dable and all of that, I loved Wink's scheme with the Giants. I really did. It was fun. It was exciting to watch. And it was very different than what we've seen from Shane Bowen. So obviously bringing in someone like Josiah Stewart doesn't mean that we're going to be getting Wink's scheme, but it means that you're going to have a guy who can be a rotational pass rusher with Kayvon and Brian Burns, and he would also do well in a 3-4 package. So I like the idea of Josiah Stewart. I think he could be an option for the Giants. Let's move along to cornerback, because Azareye'h Thomas from Florida State absolutely shined at the Senior Bowl. I loved everything that I had seen from him. He stood out above and beyond the others. He is projected to go in rounds 1 to 2. So I think if he slips out of the first round, there is a possibility that he could be there at 34 for the Giants. And I think it would be a good move for them if they don't get Travis Hunter, right? So when it comes to some of the guys that I'm going to be discussing in these player profiles, obviously it depends on what happens with the 3rd overall pick. But because we have no idea what's really going to happen, and we're not going to know until draft night, some of these names, I think it's important just to review, because if the Giants end up trading into the first at 32, or they end up picking one of these guys at 34, you can say to your friends, I knew about this because I saw him on Giants Latest. So let's talk more about Thomas. So he's 6'1 and a quarter, 197 pounds. Like I said, Florida State projected to go rounds 1 to 2. His stats from last year, he had 52 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 4 pass breakups, 2 quarterback hits, and 1 interception. He's good in press man. He has a lot of various techniques that he uses, and this is something that I hope we're going to see more of from Shane Bowen this year. I'm really curious to just see how he adjusts his scheme to fit with these players. He was an honorable mention All ACC in 2024. Now, for a corner, he has ideal size and length. So his wingspan is 78 His hands are 10 inches and arms are over 32 inches. So for some numbers there, if that helps you guys when it comes to talking about size and length for corners. He's quick and fluid, moves very quickly, moves well. That's one of the things that I think we've seen that's been good with Tay Banks, right? Like, he's athletic, he moves well, he's got the athleticism, and he's quick to keep up with guys. He just never turns his head around. So that concerns me a little bit with Thomas, because having only one interception kind of shows me that maybe he's not making that many plays on the ball, even though he did have a few pass breakups. But he is, I think, one of the best corners coming out in this draft. And with us having so many question marks around Tay Banks and what he's really going to look like this year, I think he's a guy that the Giants should consider. Again, of course, if they don't get Travis Hunter at 3. So a couple other things. He has a lot of experience in press and off-man coverage. He also has experience in outside zone, which we saw a lot from Shane Bowen last year. Including cover 3 and cover 4. In off coverage, he has a shuffle pedal and is quick to turn and run. So he's going to be able to keep up with these wide receiver ones pace for pace, which is also something that's really important. Last thing here, he has solid awareness. He can pass receivers and flip his hips to match the new outside receiver in cover 4. So we know from looking at this Giants schedule that they are going against some really good football teams. And with that, it's going to mean that they're going to have to cover guys like A.J. Brown and Justin Jefferson and even guys in the division, right? Like, he's going to have to cover CeeDee Lamb. So you have to be able to keep up with these number 1 wide receivers. And I think that someone like Azareye'h Thomas is going to be able to do that. So let me know which one of these player profiles was the best, and stay tuned, because Monday is going to be mock draft Monday. We're going to go through my whole mock draft. You guys can let me know what you think about that. And then the rest of the week is player profiles. We're going to get into rounds 3, 4, and 5. The Giants obviously have a lot of picks in rounds 3 and into round 4. So there's going to be hopefully a lot of value for them there. So we're going to discuss that next week. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.